Hey guys, welcome back to ArtosisCasts, and welcome to the third game of this ladder series between Bisu and Soma. Once again, we have 9 ladder games that were played in pretty quick succession, not all in a row like we had from Zealot vs. Rain. That was crazy. But yeah, thought we'd put these together and have a good time with it. They've actually been excellent games so far. Game 1 and Game 2 were both super interesting, super awesome. Didn't really go how I thought they would either. So if you've missed those, I definitely suggest you go back and check them out. We will end up casting all 9 of the games. Probably, you know, put a little sprinkle of other matchups in between just for people that are not as invested in the series. I know that last time it seems like everyone was invested in that series. I hope that's the case this time as well, but we'll mix it up a little bit in there also. Anyways, yeah, this is, again, game number 3, tied up 1-1, and we're on Polypoid in the exact same spawns as last game. So Bisu bottom right and Soma in the top left. So it'll be actually really interesting to see how this game plays out differently, right? Because if you're playing someone twice pretty close together and they're, you know, you're the same spots on the same map, you definitely have it fresh in your mind what happened. You'd be really surprised what a good StarCraft player remembers about their games. It is a lot. Like, I even me at this point, I can remember not entire games, but close to, like, huge chunks of, like, so many games from 20 plus years ago. It's kind of crazy. It just kind of sticks in your mind. I think it must have something to do with, like, the patterns that occur in games where it's like, oh, yes. Oh, a game like that with the battle cruisers at the end? Yes. Okay, so, you know, I have a bunch of different games that I've seen that, and these are the ones that I remember, and whatever. I don't know. I'm not a memory expert, but for sure it's going through Bisu's mind what went wrong in that previous game, because honestly, it felt like he was outplaying Soma. It did. It felt like he was kind of outdoing him. He got himself into a position that I thought was pretty good. Unfortunately, ended up losing an army and had a tough time there at the end, but truly a great game. Now, Zealot pressure, once again, going to go ahead and send this across the map. Already we have 6 lings in production, so that's going to be more than enough to head that off. And we'll see if Soma once again takes a third up there. That's pretty normal. I'd be surprised to see elsewhere. Like, you could take it here, but I don't see a reason. Like, this one has the gas. This one actually has a better SimCity for early game. This is better, like I was talking about, for like a lurker sunken setup later on. Like, when you start getting into that tech, this becomes super, super powerful. But yeah, you can really kind of choke this off because of the small ramps, right? So right now, where is that Zealot? Oh, the Zealot turned around already. Okay, so he is making the secondary pylon, which means we'll see a forge. And yeah, pretty similar setup to what we saw, you know, in that last game. 1 ling running around. This is very normal, by the way. When they make those lings and bring them across, 1 probe plus Zealot on the ramp, and then the other Zealot just chases them around so they can't really do anything. And then you have the 3rd Zealot pop out, and you're just completely fine. Obviously, if they start to ling all in, you play it a little bit different, but this is generally the standard way to make sure a ling doesn't get into your main base. And honestly, like, you don't need to be walking out with these Zealots right now. It's annoying that you can't, but like, a lot of times you'll see Protoss players wait till 4 or 5. That's where it starts to get really hard for the lings to get those surrounds, where you can really start to trade more favorably and really force a lot more lings out of Zerg. Also, as you push that timing back, you're more likely to scout something like a Hydra popping out, let's say, in which case you can prepare for a 3-hatch Hydra all in. In this particular game, we see Soma continuing to play towards the late game here in Zerg vs. Protoss, getting his lair. So I would assume that this will be a quick Spire once again, whether that's going to be for Mutas or just Scourge to push back Corsairs. It's really hard to say. We've seen a variety of plays. We saw like a 3 Muta play in game 1. We saw Scourge play, which is more standard in game 2. Here, Bisu just continues to push back the Zerglings there of Soma. Photon Cannon going up in the natural. And everything looks completely normal. Like, there's a little bit of back and forth as far as, like, okay, well, your lings are here, so my Zealots run around. Now my Zealots go across, so your lings have to go back to defend. But it's all very standard macro stuff. Definitely nobody has an advantage at this point. Soma right now getting that Zergling speed, getting a lot more Zerglings here as well. Bisu looks like he's making a beeline for up here. A lot of great places to stand with your Zealots. Goes to the ramp, so he has his back against the side of the ramp, basically. Unfortunately, there were 3 Zerglings behind. That's kind of funny. If those 3 Zerglings hadn't been there on the ramp, that trade would have looked 100% different. You would have killed so much more. But Soma holds that really, really well. Going across the map with a decent group of Speedlings, but it's not... This isn't scary like when Zealot gets Speedlings, right? And in fact, look at this. Look at the mini-map. It looks like a star going out in different directions. He sends Lings absolutely everywhere. And he's just kind of checking. He's like, do you have anything on the map? And he finds this one Zealot. There is one thing on the map, and he finds it with that beautiful spread. And the Zealot will come up here and hide right back there because it's an insanely strong spot. You can only hit 1 Zergling at a time there, so he's safe for a while. Corsair coming out, second Corsair on the way. Citadel. This is funny because it looks like the placement is like exactly the same. Look at this. I remember this hatchery from the previous game. There's that hatchery. It's like the exact same placement that we saw. This happens too. I remember we used to make jokes, right? So the top American players, we used to all play together in a team called Micromedia. And we would joke because Noni, who was the best Protoss American player at the time, he would always put his buildings in exactly the same spot. So we had this joke where, like, if you just sent your first scout to his location and just put it where he put his first pylon, he'd have to leave the game. It was just like, you know, people practice and they kind of get it down. It's like, well, this is where I like it. This is a good location, and this is the Sim City I'm looking for. And of course, that, you know, there's nothing really weird about that, but I find it kind of funny when you see it and it's like, well, this game looks so similar, right? Well, a few idle drones there as he's microing about, doing his scouting, bringing his Scourge up, seeing if he can maybe catch a Corsair. Now, this actually hid there. What he just did, because there were Lings around, if the Ling saw, the Scourge could have adjusted a little bit better as to where the Corsair is. But he did come in at the right type of angle. Look at that. Bisu says, you know what, it's likely to be there, or maybe he just caught a glimpse and goes up. There's so much back and forth there. Now, here's that 5 Zealot walkout that I was talking about before. We see this really, really often. These 5 Zealots going to go up, get some very good scouting intel, and what he's going to find, actually, are Mutalisks hatching. So as Mutalisks are coming out, they are going to have to help fight the Zealots because he doesn't have that many Lings. He is making some static D, a sunken here and a sunken here, so that will help out. But that gives time to Bisu. If he needs more cannons, he can now add. So let's see if he's going to add any more cannons. There's a defensive cannon at the natural in the mineral line. And it looks like that's the only one he feels like he needs right now. High Templars being made. The Muta's just kind of chasing down some Zealots. There was one that popped up into here that killed off too, it looks like. Some extra Scourge. More Mutas being made. He does have that +1 flyer carapace. I actually missed that before. But when you go for +1 flyer carapace, that's a pretty big commitment into the Mutalisks. You want to undo the +1 that the Corsairs get, and of course negate some of that splash damage. So that +1 armor always going to be very, very necessary if you actually want to go Mutalisks here against a Corsair player. Now, this is one way that you can kind of counter Mutalisk play with Corsairs. If you continually make your Corsairs, but you also add in 1 to 2 Archons with your Speed Zealots, what you can do is you fly the Corsairs over the Archon so it can get an insane hit. Now, here we go. We actually have a big engage right there. The Scourge gets some decent hits. 2 of these did get hit, and then 3 more, I believe it was, died. Now, the Mutas have taken a bit of damage, but they're putting damage now onto these Zealots. The Zealots having to run away. Ooh, the Archon coming up, trying to get a hit. Sick hit from the Archon. And you can see how much damage that splash did to those Mutalisks. They get very, very low. A very dangerous situation. But another Corsair has died. So 3 Corsairs going to back up. He is making more Corsairs here. You can see several queued as well. So Bisu not planning on stopping that Corsair production anytime soon. But the Mutalisk production is done. We have Hydralisks on the way right now for Soma. He's getting some more static D in here as well. He knows that the Zealots are a little bit fearsome. The Archon coming in as well. Sunkens do amazingly against Archon since they do the full 40 damage consistently against the shields. And yeah, I think with the Sim City and the static D, you're not going to find any damage right now. This is just going to be a roaming force that doesn't do much. The Muta's getting a bit of scouting. Looks like he will. Like, Bisu wants to take this base. We saw him take this very early in the previous game. And Soma comes up here and just makes sure that it doesn't get taken as quickly as he wants it. The Zealots and Archons actually, or Zealots and Archon start coming back, probably to make sure he can take this base. He needs some anti-air there, and I think the Archon is going to do well. That is going to allow him to possibly bring the Corsairs back out to fight as well. See, he brings the Corsairs, and, you know, if... see, he's trying to make it so the Archon can hit, but that is beautiful. He divided the Corsairs from the Archon with those Scourge. So these fly back to the cannons. The Scourge have to turn around. You got, like, one hit in there. It's really worth it each time you get a Scourge hit. It's really, really strong. And brings these back up towards that Archon once again. Nexus comes down. A pretty quick Nexus here. And look at this. He's on those 6 gates again. I love this style from Bisu. And I think what we'll see is, once again, him add a couple gates and go for a 4th Nexus. That is very, very strong stuff. He throws down a ton of cannons here. More than we saw previously. Hydra's being made. You know, when you start off with mutas, ooh, he comes in to get the cannons. That's super, super annoying. Zealots lead the way back. In comes the High Templar. He wants to be careful about that. And at least one of the cannons got canceled off. I guess that was actually not a 4th cannon, but a 2nd pylon. Okay, so good defense here. Loses one more, but that's okay. The sky really belongs to Bisu at this point. So I don't think he needs to make any more Corsairs. He is going into Dragoons at this point. He is adding those 2 gateways again in almost exactly the same spot, if not the exact same spot as what we saw previously. And we'll see if he gets that 4th base up as quickly as we saw it in the previous game. A lot of Hydras being hatched. Lurker upgrade on the way. 4th base in that same location once again. Definitely going to want to set this up in a nice defensive stance. You can see, where are our High Templars? We have 2 here and 1 here. So only 3 so far. Obviously, a lot of gas has been spent on the Archon as well as the Corsairs. So it does make it a little bit harder to get those big High Templar counts. But you do want to have like 4. 4 for like the mid game is definitely where we see most pro Protosses go. Starting to get some good macro out. Setting this base up. This is a big moment right now. You know, if this gets canceled in like the next couple seconds, it's big. Looks like some Hydras come in and they wanted to snipe something. I didn't see a High Templar in there, but... looks like the Corsairs come up and try to push that back. He's going to pull him back for now. But look at this. Once again, getting that 4th base set up just beautifully. I really wish more Protosses would try to copy Bisu in this regard. I love this type of play. The fact that he's securing such a large economy. It's like he can't go kill Zerg right now, but he should be feeling pretty good about what he's setting up. Like, he's getting himself into a position where he can play for the next 10 minutes really cleanly, however he wants. So right now, pushing back Soma. Soma did come forward with quite a few units. We should point out, look at this base. That's interesting. Last game, we saw Soma take this top right location and set up some Lurkers, set up some Hydras on that ramp and hold it in that way. Now he's taking the base that he knows Bisu wanted to take. Now, this is the easiest next base for Bisu. Bisu, so if you look at it, right, to take this, he can just kind of roam in this general area, and this gets defended. What about this base? If Bisu wants to take that base, he can't just roam in this general area. He has to, like, roam up here, which is too far away from defending these 2 bases. So the top right is very unnatural for Bisu to take, and the bottom left is very natural for Bisu to take. By the way, that's why we call this the natural expansion, because it's the one you would naturally take. Anyways, enough talk of that. Bisu is trying to bust right now. He is storming up onto this high ground. This is such a strong defensive location. More Lurkers are opening up, and it looks like he's got enough Hydras and Lurkers. I don't think he's going to be busted, but those are some insane storms. Bisu dealing tons of damage right now. Maybe he is going to be able to break through. As more Lurkers burrow, though, he does pull back a little bit. That was an insanely good engagement. I actually think a lot of Protosses would have pushed here, and I think that they would have lost their army. Like, it does look to me like Soma has enough here to hold on against anything Bisu would try. But Bisu, like, traded super, super well and then backed up. I love that type of play. Just shave down units, make it hard for Zerg back up. Now, this base is up. Can Soma hold it? No Hive. So we're not going to see Cracklings. We're not going to see Defilers. We're not going to see a Nidus down to here. So this is a little bit of a sneak base right now. Not sure. Not sure. Because, like, if 4 Zealots go down here, this just dies, and suddenly Soma's in a lot of trouble. Okay, well, Bisu comes over, starts to engage this army as it starts to walk to the south. Oh, man, he, like, double storms there and totally misses. The Muta's killing off, actually, a fair amount of these High Templars. Only 1 High Templar will remain. Lurkers run forward and burrow right on top of those Zealots. So they are going to get some pretty decent spines. Bisu going to pull back. He runs out of Psy Storms, getting very low on that Zealot count as well, so does not want to waste these Dragoons. Very smart move to back up, bringing more High Templars and Zealots out with his main army. Wow, that was a pretty strong move from Soma. Now look at how many Hydras he's sending down across the map. Now, Soma is down about 40 army supply right now. But don't forget, this is mostly 1 supply units, and this is all 2 supply units. So yeah, the Zerg army is stronger than it seems via supply. That's why we always talk about how if Zerg supply is equal or higher, they are winning. So right now, Bisu comes up with this army, and we'll carve out quite a few of the Hydras there. Backs up once again. Now he's setting up another base. It looks like he did, by the way, look, it's literally 4 Zealots, like I said. He sent 4 Zealots, killed this base. So that base by Soma just didn't work out. Bisu is setting up a 5th. He's got a gas on the way here. Well, it's already finished, but he's got to send his probes up to mine. And so now he's got like that whole quadrant, right? He's got a 5-base quadrant here where that's going to feed him for a long time, but he does need to make sure someone doesn't get both the other mains. That is an important thing to mention, right? Like anyone who gets 3 mains on a 4-player map is going to end up winning. Soma is taking top right. Soma is taking 9 o'clock. These are both acceptable, but Bisu wants to maintain the pressure. He moves out. He's maxed out right now. 63 probes, a very strong army indeed. Still no Hive on the way. Soma really focusing heavily here on Hydra Lurker. It looks like Bisu's attack coming up, though, is really, really deadly. Throws down a nice Psy Storm, a very good amount of Dragoons, pulls back his Zealots as they're overcommitting to the side. He wants a Psy Storm over here. Beautiful Psy Storm all over those Hydras. Just erases them. The Hydra's on the right, gonna get stormed as well. He busts through the only Lurker in there, and he has some more Zealots that have joined if he puts those Zealots in the front. Oh, actually, I don't know about this. I don't know about this. That's a lot of Hydras, and they do eat a very big storm, but you're not going to beat that going uphill. So Soma macros up and pushes him back here. Bisu must retreat. He's going to get back here, try to take his own high ground in this location, and hopefully that'll be enough to get these Hydras off of his back. All right, he stops here, decides, okay, we're going to go meet up with the rest of the army. Some High Templars mixed in. Very importantly, more on the way, more Dragoons coming out. 2-1-2 upgrades for Bisu, which is phenomenal. 2-1 upgrades here for Soma as he goes forward. He's going to want to pick off some of these High Templars, perhaps. No, turns around. Going to be too expensive there. Tries to get 1, but loses 5-6 Hydras and doesn't get it. Bisu attacking in before these Lurkers have hatched. Looks like these Lurkers not going to be able to make it. They pop out and will get picked off by the Dragoons in a matter of seconds. About 1 spine sent out by the 4 of them. Storms going down everywhere. Bisu with a masterclass on how to attack and retreat from the Zerg army. Crushing everything. Soma GG's. Chills. Absolute chills. If you want to see why Bisu is the best Protoss that has ever lived, this is a great example of it. The way that he was engaging up and pulling back every time the battle started to go in Soma's favor. Every time. Reinforces, comes back, and whittles Soma down. An excellent game out of Bisu. And a great game out of Soma as well. Guys, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.